Good evening and welcome to the Ogden City Council meeting of April 5th, 2016. Please note all council members are present. With that, I will turn the time over to Vice Chair Blair.
Great, thank you. Tonight we have Isaac Osgathorpe. If you'd come up, and he's from Troop 74. So, what are you working on? What are you doing?
Me and my scout troop are working on the City Council Merit Badge.
Great. Awesome. Well, thanks for being here. And he's going to lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance. So I'll turn the time over to you. Thanks, Isaac.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Isaac. Next on our agenda, please take a moment of silence with me. Thank you very much. So next up on our agenda are some recognitions. Councilmember Heyer.
Yes, thank you, Chair White. It's my pleasure to recognize Sean Owens. He has been recognized as the 2016 State of Utah College of Applied Technology Student of the Year. And so we, as the Ogden City Council and Mayor, proudly recognize Sean Owens for providing invaluable contributions to the Ogden community. As a student at the Ogden-Weber Tech College, Sean was selected as the 2016 Ogden-Weber Tech College Student of the Year. He also earned the distinguished honor of 2016 Utah College of Applied Technology, UCAT, Student of the Year, which he received after competing with finalists from 7 other tech colleges in Utah. We appreciate his remarkable efforts and congratulate him for completing the non-destructive inspection certification program and wish him our best in all his future endeavors. And so if we can have Sean come forward, we want to applaud you. Come up, we've got a plaque for you. And we want to take our pictures with you, too. Grab that one and shake all of our hands first, will you?
No, I plan on doing that. I'll come back around.
Congratulations. Oh, you're here for the picture. Yeah, we're coming over here. We grouped this side for the picture. Would you like to have President Mercier in the picture with you? Why don't we have her come up?
Do you have family here with you?
I do not know.
Okay.
Who's the other gentleman?
Let's get over this.
Jim, do you want to? You're good?
I think you should make him come up.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Moved with me. She's the
Gotta move,
boss.
everybody. Brittany. Oh.
Good choice.
One, two, three. One, two, three.
Okay, great. Yeah, if we could hear from you, and then President Mercier would be welcome also.
No problem. I do want to say thank you guys very much for this. It's very humbling to be here before you guys, and no matter how many times I speak to people, no matter what I do, I'm very humbled by the opportunity to do this. Very proud to represent the city of Ogden, as well as the state of Utah in technical education. The way I came about getting into the Ogden-Weber Tech School, I had a 4-year full-ride scholarship to Utah State University and was pursuing a degree in psychology. And my passion really was counseling of youth. to do some youth counseling of some sort. But in order to do that, it would take a 4-year degree, plus getting my master's degree, as well as doing a long residency, or maybe not necessarily residency, but an intern, so to speak. And that would take me beyond my 4 years, take me at least 6 years to accomplish that. And the entry wage in the state of Utah is around $35,000 a year for a youth counselor, tops out around $55,000 a year. I right now have siblings who are $30,000 in debt going to private school, as well as a sister-in-law who right now, combined with her husband, pay more on their student loans than they do their actual mortgage. And that's insane to me. So one day I was sitting at my computer, msn.com is my homepage, and on that there was a top 10 highest paying jobs that don't require a 4-year degree. So I became curious and clicked on it. And number 3 on that was an inspector. So that got me curious. That was in August of 2014. September 2014, this program started here at Ogden-Weber Tech. February 2015, I started the program. I got my certificate October of 2015. In terms of quick turnaround and return on investment, October 13th, I believe, whatever that Tuesday was, second week of October is when I got my certificate. On Wednesday, ATK called, said they'd like to interview me for a position. On Thursday, I interviewed. On Friday, they offered me a position within the same week of me actually getting my certificate. And the message that I send to people is technical education is equally as important as university education. Here in the state of Utah, if you work at Hill Air Force Base being a non-destructive inspector, without any experience, just your certificate going in, you start out at a wage grade 11, which is roughly $21.13 an hour, $44,000 a year starting. And it tops out around a GS 13, which is $95,000 a year up at Hill. And the only difference there is experience and a little bit more schooling specifically for aerospace. So ultimately, what I say to younger people who don't know what they want to do, or even people who are just struggling, looking to make ends meet and looking to do something with their lives, this is equally as important as university education, should be taken just as seriously. And like I said before, thank you again for this opportunity. Proud to represent Ogden, proud to represent the state of Utah, and thank you again. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good.
Well, thank you very much for allowing us to come and just take a few minutes this evening. We really like the opportunity to showcase our students whenever we can. And when you listen to a student like Sean Owens, why wouldn't we want to showcase him everywhere we have the opportunity? And he is not atypical of the students that we have at the Tech College. There are so many wonderful opportunities at Ogden-Weber and across all the tech colleges. And we hope having individuals like Sean Owens go out and talk about their experience and talk about the opportunities and the wages and the opportunities for growth will really help additional individuals in our community see that this is a great place to get started at the Ogden-Weber Tech College and across the state at any of the other 7 tech colleges that we have. So that's kind of why we got this started. So it would just be one more way for us to get the word out about the great opportunities that we have to meet the needs of our employers and give a lot of our students and our residents some really fantastic opportunities to take care of their families and provide opportunities for growth and great occupations. So thank you very much for allowing us to showcase Sean one more time. We're going to do this as much as we can all year long. He's Student of the Year for the year. So we intend to take advantage of him, and he's been a great sport in joining us in all of these other activities. So thank you again very much for your support and allowing us to just visit with you for a few minutes this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe is there another student that wanted to talk, or no? That's it? Fantastic. Thank you. Next on our agenda is the Child Abuse Prevention Month. Councilmember Nadolski.
Thank you, Chair White. It is with great appreciation and pride that I read today's joint proclamation of the Ogden City Council and Mayor declaring April 2016 Child Abuse Prevention Month in Ogden City. Whereas, although all children deserve to experience and enjoy a carefree and innocent childhood, child abuse is a serious and growing problem with over 20,000 Utah cases being investigated annually. And whereas, child abuse respects no racial, religious, class, or geographic boundaries. Over 90% of all abuse happens by a person the child knows. The incidence of sexual abuse is the most common form of abuse in Utah, and whereas preventing child abuse depends upon the efforts of residents to make a positive, substantial impact on the children of today who will become the leaders of tomorrow. And whereas all Ogden City residents are encouraged to become more aware of child abuse within their respective communities, learn how to prevent it, and actively encourage and support parents to raise their children in a safe, nurturing environment. And whereas Ogden City encourages individuals, families, and businesses to support Prevent Child Abuse Utah in their important mission to prevent child abuse throughout the state. Now therefore, the Ogden City Council, Mayor Michael P. Caldwell, do hereby proclaim April 2016 Child Abuse Prevention Month in Ogden City. We encourage residents to join Prevent Child Abuse Utah in becoming advocates for children to create a society where child abuse is not tolerated. We ask everyone to actively foster a caring community, which will help to protect our children and end child abuse and neglect. Chair White, it's with great appreciation that I make a motion to approve this joint proclamation as presented and read today.
I'll second.
Fantastic. We have a motion by Councilmember Nadolski and second by Councilmember Heyer. This is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes.
Chair White, before we move on, I believe we have Carrie Jensen, Associate Director of Child Abuse, Prevent Child Abuse Utah, here in the crowd. If you could say a word.
Thank you so much for allowing us to be here and for once again doing a proclamation here in Ogden. Prevent Child Abuse Utah has Ogden's been our home for 34 years now, so we appreciate your support year after year and love being here in Ogden. We are a statewide organization, and so we travel everywhere, but it's nice to be able to call Ogden home. So April is Child Abuse Prevention Month, and so we just want to bring more awareness to child abuse that is happening in our state. And as was mentioned, over 20,000 referrals are investigated in our state every year. So it is a large problem happening in our state. So the month is about the bright, happy childhood that we want all children to have, that all children deserve. And so to help represent that, we have our bright blue pinwheels. And so the pinwheel is just that innocence of childhood, the fun, happy smile that just, even as I just held that up, I saw some of you smile. It's something that's a positive reminder for kind of the negative thing that can be happening. And so just as you see those pinwheels around, out in, we say planting pinwheels, planting pinwheel gardens in your yard, at your offices, in vases at work, just to kind of give that reminder of the bright, happy future that we want all children to have. And I brought enough for all of you, so I'd like each of you to be able to have at least one to take home with you today. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So Carrie, before you sit down, we've got a certificate for you that signed and sealed by the mayor and the council chair White. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much for being here and for all you do.
Picture?
we?
Pinwheel?
You want a picture? Is that what we're trying to do?
Yeah, we're getting pictures.
Crowding in for a picture.
Whoever hold one, yeah.
Of course, hello.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to do two.
Good.
Ready? 1, 2,
4, 5, 6.
3. We're good?
Okay, keep trying to film.
The mayor move over with
Okay.
I got one.
Thank you. Next on our agenda is the Fair Housing Month. And Councilmember Lopez.
Yeah. Chair White, it is my honor to present the joint proclamation of the Ogden City Council and the Mayor, proclaiming April 2016 Fair Housing Month in Ogden City. Whereas Title 8 of the Civil Rights Act, which guarantees fair housing for all residents of the United States, was signed into law in April 1968. And whereas the month of April is nationally recognized as Fair Housing Month, and a time to reflect on and reaffirm our national commitment to the ideal that fair housing opportunity is available to everyone in the United States without regard to race, color, religion, national origin, sex, familial status, and disability. And whereas this year's Fair Housing theme is shared opportunity in every community, this indicates a collaborative effort of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, and its housing partners in realizing increased housing opportunities for every individual. And whereas the state of Utah passed its own Fair Housing Act in 1989, recognizing and affirming that all persons in the state of Utah are free to purchase, rent, finance, and insure their homes without regard to their race, color, religion, sex, national origin, familial status, disability, or source of income. And whereas the City of Ogden welcomes this opportunity to reaffirm our commitment to the principle of fair housing for all and are committed to all efforts that address discrimination in our communities, support all programs that will educate the public concerning their rights to equal housing opportunity, and to assure every person their right to live free of the fear of housing discrimination. Now, therefore, the Ogden City Council and Mayor Michael P. Caldwell hereby proclaim April 2016 Fair Housing Month in Ogden City. We encourage all people to recognize the rights of every citizen to live where they choose without fear of discrimination, intimidation, or retaliation from others. And with that, Chair White, I'd like to make a motion that we approve this joint proclamation.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Lopez, second by Councilmember Garner to to approve this joint proclamation. This is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes. Fantastic. I think we have, is Michelle here? Kelly's here. I'm sorry. Kelly, I apologize.
Problem. Michelle was coming too, but she had a dentist appointment that didn't go too well.
Okay, well, you were in the next.
I would rather be here than there,
yeah.
believe me. So I'm Kelly Jorgensen. I'm the field office director for the HUD office down in Salt Lake, and we do cover the state of Utah. And I just wanted to thank the mayor and the city council for your commitment to fair housing, as it is so important. We believe that every person should have the chance to secure and gain stable housing, regardless of their religion, how they get around, the number of people they have in their family, where they come from. It's something that all of us would like to be treated fairly, and that's why we think that it's so important and appreciate the proclamation that you've signed tonight. We also value our relationship and partnership with the City of Ogden, which has been ongoing for several years. Each year we provide over $1 million to the city in our community planning and development programs. And Ward Ogden, Kathy Fuentes, and those that work with the programs do a wonderful job administering those at the local level. And they should be commended for the good work that they do. Ogden is also one of only 2 cities in the nation that participates in our asset control area program. And that is where the city of Ogden purchases HUD foreclosed homes at half the appraised value, and then rehabilitates these homes and creates affordable housing, safe housing for families, and also at the same time stabilizes neighborhoods. So we'd like to thank the city of Ogden for their commitment to that as well. I think there's been over 120 homes that have been done over the years through that program. So it's a wonderful thing. And like I say, the only other city I think is Rochester, New York, I think is the other one. So good for Ogden for doing that. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Kathy, do you want to join us?
Great job.
We decided Ben moved last time, but you're thinking they were down.
And he's coming over.
Yep.
More that way? Or are we good?
Gosh,
Where do we put Ben on them?
Opposite the mayor.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Grab a couple more. I think we're good.
Well, and thank you for all the work you do. I think our city is better off for a lot of the funding, so thank you. Next up on our agenda item is the request to be on the agenda, which we would love to get an update from our legislators. I think Representative Peterson's in the House. If you'd come up and give us an update of what happened in 2016, or the 45 days of 2016.
Yeah, well, I came back from the legislature, and my therapist has told me not to mention anything about it for the next 3 months. So I'm already going into spasms and fits here, rehearsing this. So there were a couple items that directly affected Ogden City, and I'll just talk about a couple items and then open it up to questions if you have any. At least these two issues earned me the most face time with Mr. Johnson, so that's why I remember them so well. The first item had to do with redevelopment tax credits and an effort to, along with the collaboration from Randy Sant in recodifying our RDA laws, creating a tax credit for investment in blight areas to help bridge the equity gap that exists in redeveloping some of our more blighted neighborhoods. That effort failed basically due to the fact that it needed to be budgeted for, and we didn't have the funds this year or the political will to fund that, because it was a pretty big price tag. I think we were around $6 million, or maybe 4, 3? 4. Okay, yeah, 4 million. I knew it was an even number. 4 million on that price tag. So hopefully over the interim, as lobbying efforts continue and we work with legislators to prioritize this item, we can get that done this next year. The second item that affected Ogden City deals with our retirement system and how our public safety employees were compensated, or how their retirement worked in regards to them retiring and then coming back into an agency to work. Our laws basically say you got to take a year off and do something different for a year before coming back and working at a different agency if you're a public safety employee and want to come back and work in the field again while retiring. We made an attempt to change that so it was a shorter period of time, and the whole point of this was to ease the burden of recruiting that exists in our public safety sphere, specifically with police. With public sentiment being the way it is, it's a tough time to be in law enforcement. The culture right now and the way that public sentiment has moved, it's a difficult job. The pay has been low historically because of reforms that we made to the retirement system as well. So greater amounts of pay are going to the retirement system rather than going to direct compensation. You guys are aware of this, I'm sure. And also, I mean, you guys have made strides in improving those salaries. So the legislature applauds you for improving that and attracting more law enforcement through compensation. But we did try to make that change. The bill came to our Revenue and Taxation Committee. It passed out of our committee barely, and then went to the floor of the House where it passed out. This was a very controversial topic. And I'll just say with a voice of warning here that, you know, as much as I like to talk about rainbows and unicorns, our retirement system is going to need further tweaks, and probably they will be significant ones moving forward in the future. The unfunded liability that our retirement system has in place right now has grown during this period since the recession. So it increased tremendously during the recession, came down a little bit, and it should be decreasing because it's tied to the market. And as the market has increased, the unfunded liability should shrink, but it hasn't. It's gone up. And as business cycles go round and round, we may have a period here where the market declines, And that unfunded liability is going to just go up even further, and probably significantly. So if that does happen, there's talk about creating a new Tier 3 for public employee retirement compensation. And if that happens, there will be even greater amounts of money taken from that would otherwise go to compensation be put into the retirement fund, and it'll be even more difficult to compensate people to work in this field. So difficult decisions are ahead. I expect this will probably be happening within the next 3 to 4 years, depending on how quickly and how significant an economic cycle turns downward. So kind of a gloomy topic, but just letting you know in advance, that's what we see, and that'll be a topic of discussion. So just put that on a Post-it note somewhere, and you can come back to it. Other than that, those are the two biggies that I can think of. If you have questions, I'll be glad to answer them for you.
Jeremy, what about leadership down there for the Northern Utah? How does that look?
So you mean as far as the leadership races go, or as far as just our efforts as a body to pull weight for Northern Utah?
The influence that we would have there.
So there is a Northern Utah coalition of representatives, and we did have a couple meetings that we stepped aside and met regarding issues that were very particular to Northern Utah, and I mean basically kind of northern Davis County-ish, up through Box Elder and Logan, and not so much the Logan Cache Valley area, but Box Elder. It includes Lee Perry in that group, because he encompasses 2/3 of his district is Weber County. But we met to discuss some of the priorities. A lot of those priorities came from our Chamber of Commerce here in Weber County, and also in collusion with some of Davis's. One of the big projects that was prioritized was the Falcon Hill building, a $21 million price tag on that building, which would spur another $80 million in commercial development at the Falcon Hill site. Obviously, that's a big job center for us. I mean, if the idea is to make Hill Air Force Base BRAC-proof. And we've talked about that for a while. We've invested in improvements, capital improvements where we can to the site to make Hill Air Force Base indispensable to the defense, to our Defense Department. And to a large degree, we believe we've succeeded at that. They've moved their ICBM headquarters basically to that area, and the building that we're funding basically involves their coding for the F-35. Highly technical, a lot of software and electronics based work being done there. And the building is expensive because it's basically wrapped in high-tech aluminum foil to prevent espionage and electrical interference from other sources. And so that all the buildings that will be built around it will be support staff for that purpose. So long-winded answer to your question, but we met several times specifically to make sure priorities up here were taken care of. I know that the interchange on 24th and I-15 is a big one. That's moving further up the list on the IGG list, but I think we still have a few years to go on that. So hopefully that answers your question.
I have a comment followed by a question.
Yeah.
First, I want to thank you for enduring the 45 days on our behalf, and I hope I didn't personally contribute to any agony on your end there. But also to thank you for being here.
No problem.
I think it's really important that you're here, and I really do appreciate it because we as a community, as a council and an administration all rely on you and others who represent this community. So thank you for doing that. I wanted to ask you, as a follow-up, 4 of us from this council are going to be going to St. George this week, and we'll be hearing from your colleague, Representative Gibson, and to discuss the issue of homelessness in Utah and how we can make some significant strides in fixing that problem. I'm curious if you could provide some feedback on Representative Gibson's efforts and how that might apply and have implications for us here in Northern Utah, and specifically in Ogden, obviously.
Right. So the homelessness issue, as we're all probably aware, deals a lot with mental illness and a lot of times substance abuse that then induces mental illness. So some of them times are tied together in that regard. I think there's a philosophical shift occurring as far as what's the best fit to rehabilitate the homeless and also just kind of maintain some semblance of a standard of living that keeps them out of trouble and from harming themselves. I know part of that discussion involves what's the correct way to house, right? Do we want these monolithic giant warehouses that we just kind of crowd people into and hope that things work out, or do we need more neighborhood-oriented, smaller housing units to create some assimilation in the neighborhood and spread things out a little bit so there's not a super concentration of disadvantaged folks that pull each other down like crabs in a bucket. So I'm not actually familiar with Commissioner Gibson's efforts in that regard. I know I'm familiar with Salt Lake's efforts to negotiate that.
It was Representative Gibson that he was talking about.
Did I say Commissioner?
Yeah, it's Representative.
Oh, sorry.
Francis.
Habit. Sorry.
Okay, yeah. So, yeah. Well, and I know that his efforts are kind of in line with what I'm, talking about philosophically. So, we definitely need to make a concerted effort to deal with that. I think one of the bills we passed, the mini Medicaid expansion, if you want to call it that, will deal with some of the treatment that's needed. A lot of it's going to be geared towards law enforcement, but we know that the homeless interact with law enforcement quite a bit, and if we can get these folks out of circulation in the law enforcement community through treatment, then that's going to be a better outcome, for those folks. So obviously, these are the most disadvantaged people in our community, and anything we can do to help them become more self-sufficient and be safe, I think is a good cause. So,
I appreciate the answer. It's timely, given what we've been studying here for the last week and looking at housing issues and things that we can do in our community to improve the lives of a lot of people. And so I thank you for the answer, and also thank you and for your continued service. And we're going to be relying on you for your leadership to help us move the needle on that issue and a whole number of others.
No, thank you.
Chair, if I could just make a comment. Representative Peterson's been in the House now
6 years.
6 years, and it's wonderful as a city to be able to have access to our rep and to be able to come and to discuss things and kind of work through things. And sometimes even we ask them to hold their nose and help us with things that they're not 100% behind. And I really appreciate Representative Peterson and his dedication to our community and what he does and how he makes my job and Gary Williams' job a lot easier because of what he does. So I hope he doesn't mind that I publicly thank him for what he does.
Well, I won't turn too red. I will say that Ogden's perspective is very unique. If you go down to the Capitol, you'll talk to representatives down there that really have never experienced anything like Ogden. They represent a suburban community that's very homogeneous, with a very new community typically with very little history, and the problems that we face here in Ogden are very unique, related to our history and our age, and being an old railroad town, we've had to reinvent ourselves as a city, to repurpose ourselves so that we're relevant to other cities and other economies. And that reinvention process has it's tedious, hard work, and unwinding some of the legacy problems that we've had as being an old railroad town. That's something that's just unique to us, and no one else has that perspective. And so it's important, and I would encourage you individually, if there is an issue that is very important to Ogden as a community, come on down to the legislature, right? We can get you to shake hands with some folks, get some face time, and there's always safety in numbers. If there's a proposal that might be a little controversial or need a little more oomph behind it to make the case, the more people we have expressing that desire and telling that story, the better I think it is to get those things done. So, besides, it's a really cool building, and you just kind of get to walk around and see how neat it is down at the Capitol. But anyway, I appreciate your time, and if you guys have any concerns or issues or things that you guys need at the Capitol, just let me know.
I want to echo what Chair, if that's okay, the comments that were made. Really appreciate you being here. I don't know how many of our legislators on this side of the town were invited, but you being the only one that came and addressed us means a lot to me personally, and so I want to thank you for that.
Well, you guys are my peeps, so.
Yeah.
If I may too, I'd like to echo the gratitude. Representative Peterson's always been willing to listen, even if he didn't always agree. He knew what we were coming at him with, and he would take time, make time to sit down and talk with us, and that means a lot. There are a lot of people that don't and are unwilling to make that time when we come down and we have issues that we want to talk about that they may disagree with. So we've appreciated that openness, and I think you're doing a great job in listening and doing everything you feel you can and what's right down there. And I think that's somewhat rare. So congratulations and thank you.
Well, thank you.
I think we all like that you're down there, and we appreciate it. And I know that we ask, just like every other city, for money and funding and all of that, but, you know, sometimes that's not always available. But you managed to do things like with the YCC and, you know, Falcon Hill and the OWATC. So we really appreciate the other opportunities of funding that just maybe doesn't directly impact us at the city. So
Yeah, we'll come at you directly if we can, or
Okay,
indirectly.
perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thanks. If I may, I am going to request to move the agenda around. If I don't have to do a motion.
Yeah, with that,
Then-
Chair White, I
thank you.
would make a motion that we move item 5B after item 8 on the agenda.
Second.
There is a motion by Councilmember Heyer and second by Councilmember Lopez to move the agenda after 8B, or 8.
5B to after
5B
item number 8.
after 8, after public comment. Voice vote, is that fine? This is a voice vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, we will move that down the agenda. Next on the agenda is approval of minutes. The study session and regular meeting on December 1st, 2015, Councilmember Garner.
Yes, Chair White, I've reviewed those minutes and found them to be correct.
The work session on December 1st, 2015, Councilmember Heyer.
Yes, Chair White, I have reviewed those and found them to be accurate.
The special meeting on January 12th, 2016, Councilmember Nadolski.
Thank you, Chair White. I have reviewed those minutes, found them to be accurate to my recollection.
The work session on January 12th, 2016, Councilmember Stevens.
Yes, Ms. Chair, they're correct, and I move that we adopt.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The work session on January 19th, 2016, Councilmember Lopez.
Yes, Chair White, I reviewed the minutes and I found them to be correct. And with that, I would like to make a motion that we approve the minutes.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Lopez, second by Councilmember Stevens. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes. Next on our agenda item are two public hearing items. We have on there fiscal year 2016 annual action plan and amendment number 1.
Kathy Fuentes will present this.
My name's Kathy Fuentes, Project Coordinator for Community Development Division. Thank you for your time in considering the proposed Annual Action Plan Fiscal Year 16 Amendment. The Annual Action Plan Fiscal Year 16 is the implementation plan for the first year of the 5-year consolidated plan. It defines the HUD programs and projects to be funded for the fiscal year. It outlines the goals and accomplishments the city expects to achieve in the year. It sets a detailed budget with our sources and uses of HUD funds. and it is our application for entitlement funding for the fiscal year. The annual action plan budget process, HUD requires us to submit the annual action plan 45 days before the end of the fiscal year. They require 45 days to review our annual action plan. So therefore, the city submits it on May 15th, 45 days before the end of the year. HUD reviews that plan. And when we're drafting the annual action plan and submit it in May, we can only estimate what our program income will be for May and June and estimate what our carryover funds will be. The carryover funds are entitlement funds that are committed to projects but have not been dispersed as of June 30th, so we carry them to the next year. So we're estimating in our budget when we submit it our program income and our carryover funds. After the 45-day review, if HUD approves the action plan, then the CDBG and home entitlement grant funds are available for us on July 1st. They're available in the HUD line of credit for Ogden City. The annual action plan budget amendment adjusts the budget for the actual program income that was received and for the carryover funds. So the proposed annual action plan fiscal year 16 amendment is a budget amendment. This is a minor amendment to the action plan. The purpose is to bring the budget current. There are no other changes being proposed, and it also meets HUD's requirement to have 2 public hearings a year. So the annual action plan budget, as submitted in May, had a total of $7,319,468. The proposed budget is $7,014,092, a decrease of $305,000. Sorry. A decrease of $305,376. So our total budget is $7,014,000. The budget highlights are, we did receive, our program income estimates have been increased by $587,353. Our carryover funds decreased by $892,729. That decrease includes the TrackLine HUD 108 loan funds. Those $871,967 for property acquisition actually closed before June 30th. We thought those funds were going to carry over into the current fiscal year, but they did not. So there is no change in funding. It is a timing issue. So the funds actually dispersed before June 30th, so they're not available this year. They were spent last year. So that is our budget amendment. Any questions?
Questions?
Thank you for your support.
Thank you.
So,
Chair.
go ahead.
Sorry. Chair White, being so this is a public hearing, I would make a motion that we open the public hearing.
Second.
Motion by Vice Chair Blair and second by Councilmember Garner to open the public hearing. This is an opportunity for you to come.
Voice vote.
Oh, it's a voice vote, sorry. This is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Now, you can come up and talk.
Seeing no movement, I would move that we close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Heyer, second by Councilmember Garner to close the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes.
And with that, Chair White, I'll make a motion that we adopt the fiscal year 2016 proposed resolution 2016-9.
I second it.
Motion by Councilmember Garner, second by Councilmember Stevens to adopt the resolution. This is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Gardner.
Aye.
Councilmember Heyer.
Aye.
Councilmember Lopez.
Aye.
Councilmember Nadolski.
Aye.
Councilmember Stevens.
Aye.
Vice Chair Blair.
Aye.
Chair White.
Aye, that passes. Thank you, Kathy. Next on our agenda item is a budget amendment.
Lisa Stout will be presenting that.
Thank you, Chair White, council members. The proposed ordinance before you today amends the line item budget to match the annual action plan. Kathy did a great job of going through the programs and talking about the differences. The annual action plan adjustment is $375 in the ordinance here. We have a rounding issue of $1. However, there is also a reduction in Business Information Center program income of $43,875 in this ordinance. And so together, the annual action plan adjustment and the reduction to the Business Information Center program income reduces the line item budget in the Major Grants Fund by $349,284, excuse me. Do you have any, and it's our recommendation that you approve this ordinance to align the line item budget with the annual action plan. Have any additional questions? Okay, thank you.
So with this being a public hearing, I'll make or propose that we open this for public input.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Garner, second by Councilmember Nadolski to open the public hearing. This is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
An opportunity to talk about the budget amendment.
Chair White, seeing no movement, I move that we close the public hearing.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Heyer and second by Councilmember Garner to close the public hearing. This is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
And also, I would like to make a motion that we adopt ordinance 2016-16.
Second.
There's a motion by Councilmember Heyer and second by Councilmember Garner to adopt budget amendment. This is a budget amendment. This is a roll call vote. This is a roll call vote. Oh my God. Vote. Let's try that again. Vote.
Councilmember Heyer.
Aye.
Councilmember Lopez.
Aye.
Councilmember Nadolski.
Aye.
Councilmember Stevens.
Aye.
Councilmember Gardner.
Aye.
Vice Chair Blair.
Aye.
Chair White.
Yes. That passes. Fantastic. Got through that. So next on our agenda item is public comments. This is an opportunity to address the council regarding any concerns or ideas on any topic. Seeing no movement, we will move on to Weber Speaks. We move this agenda item down to this point. So this is a request to be on the agenda with Weber Speaks. And I'm not sure. Justin and Nicholas is my understanding. Is that right? Right. Please come up.
I appreciate the opportunity to speak today. My name is Nicholas. I'm a somewhat new resident of Utah and business student at Weber State University. Today I'd like to talk about public transportation in Ogden and Weber County. Before I moved to Utah, I lived in all over the country. I was looking for excuses to move to different cities that I've never lived before. And I've lived in a large amount of major cities across the country. And each time I moved to a new location, I would use the public transportation system, whatever the city has to offer, as my main means of getting around the city. A very large and very important factor in determining if a public transportation system will be successful in a city is the layout of the city and the geometry of the city. Right now, I'd like to point out two cities that I would argue are quintessential examples of success and failures in public transportation for the United States. The first city is Los Angeles, which has a very expensive public transportation system, and yet it doesn't work very well. The city is very large, but more specifically sprawled out. main city points are spread out so far that it's difficult for any sort of public transportation system to be effective there. In some ways, the opposite of this is Portland. The state of Oregon has restrictive land zoning laws. I believe the quote from the state is to protect land for wildlife and to protect farmland. That's me paraphrasing. This makes it difficult and expensive for new residents and businesses to expand outward. So the passive result of that is many people settle down in areas that are already serviced by the public transportation system. And when that happens, the whole system benefits without any increase in revenue. Budget, I mean. And that is the main point I would like to make to this council, the effectiveness of city planning and planning ahead. And on that note, I'd like to yield to my fellow speaker.
Thank you for allowing me to be here. My name is Justin Cypers, and I also am going to speak about public transportation. Usually when we see these three words, a lot of people outside, maybe outside of the city of Ogden, think this. A lot of people may think that Ogden is the ghetto or the hood, or it's scary to be here. And I'm here to tell you that, as we all know, that it's not like that. And through the means of public transportation, we can change that thought of people thinking that we can draw more people into here and see what a wonderful city this is. So, when you think of how can public transportation change this? How can public transportation change the thoughts that many people have about the city of Ogden? And I'm going to go over 3 main points in these next couple minutes about whether or not Ogden should be a city or a suburb. What is it that we really want as citizens of people that live here in Ogden? The parking problems that we have here in downtown Ogden, and the way that we can connect Weber State and draw more students here to downtown Ogden. The first one. A city or a suburb. I'm just going to go over kind of what is a city and a suburb. First, a city would restore historic buildings, promote density, design for pedestrian access, reduce parking space, invest in transit. Suburb is pretty much the exact opposite. Tear down historic buildings, reduce density, design auto access, increase parking space, invest in freeways to Salt Lake. Now when we see buildings in Ogden, buildings in suburbs, they're a lot different. Here in Ogden, we have buildings like this, and in the suburbs, they look like this. In the cities, we want to keep that look as right up next to the street. Easy access for pedestrians. It's a lot prettier, as you can see in that picture. And in the suburbs, it's a lot more parking space, right? The buildings are a little bit cheaper, and it just doesn't look as well. And so the real question is do we want to keep that inside of Ogden? Do we want to keep it looking nice, or do we want to bring in those suburban-like buildings? But those suburban-like buildings aren't going to go away. It's just a question of do we want it inside, or do we want to keep it outside for more suburban feel outside of downtown Ogden? So like when you go to a football game, or you go to a sporting event and you have trouble parking, Ogden has a different problem with their parking. As you can see, these are parking spaces in downtown Ogden, and it's a lot of parking. And with a lot of parking, in the yellow is the parking lots, and in the red, they're parking garages. And so the problem that Ogden has with parking is there's too much parking. This reduces the amount of expansion for businesses. It creates too much space, and there's not a lot of room for businesses to be built. Businesses are built, that draws more people, and the city can grow. It's a lot easier for pedestrians to walk from place to place. It's safer, and the only question is to bring more people into Ogden, but without their cars, and that's with public transportation. I kind of compared a little bit with Boulder, Colorado. Boulder, Colorado is the #1 transit city out of a smaller city in the nation. The biggest, New York and those big cities, but out of a smaller city, Boulder, Colorado is the #1 for their university and for their city. 11% of students at Colorado University own a car. 11% out of 25,000 students that go there. And it's because of these lines that they have. They have hop, skip, jump, bound, dash, bolt. And from their university, they're able to go out to many places that people want to visit, many hot spots that people want to visit. And they're connected to their city. Their university is connected to their city. So what do we gain when we're connected to the city? As we bring students here, the city is able to grow. Like the University of Utah as an example. From here, we can take the front runner and we can go up, take the tracks, and we can go to a football game or a jazz game. It's easy access. Here, if people want to come from Salt Lake, it's kind of difficult. They can bring the front runner down, maybe find a bus to go up there, but it's a little bit more difficult. But the track system, it works very well. And we can receive this. I mean, here, a lot of people that support the university will support the games. Here's kind of a picture of clothes gone to the game, kind of showing the support that people have, that Weber State can receive a benefit from it, and also Ogden. We can bring students here, and we can also, the city will support Weber State. As Weber State students, we all have the ability to do this. We just need to help the students, support this. We all get the free public transportation pass. I've gotten mine. I've used it actually the past couple of weeks to get to school, and I really liked it. It helps me with parking. I don't have to find a parking spot, and it lets me off right on campus. It's been really neat for me. So this is kind of just what I want to get at, is to help people support the public transportation. If we support it, it will grow, and the city of Ogden will grow. And ride UTA. That's it. Yeah.
So Nicholas and Justin, we come back up. We've probably got some questions for you guys.